Welcome to another episode of the Steal a Moment podcast with me, Michael LeBois. Today's guest is Ricky Armellino of Hawk and Ice 9 Kills. Ricky and I talk about what he's been doing through the pandemic time and also all the bands he's been working with, how he got started with Ice 9 Kills, and little on the history of his stand-up career. So guys, definitely stick around and tune in for that. There's some great stories he and I share, as I did take a foray into stand-up myself at one time, which was really funny to listen to and talk about a little bit. Also, don't forget to check out Ricky's band Hawk. They released an EP late last year called Tolerance is Paradox. We talk a little bit about that. The title of this episode is actually the first lyric of my favorite song on that record. If you guys hear me say what my favorite song is on the record, comment the title of that song in the comments below. First commenter will get some sweet swag. I have to get the other two guys that I have stuff for. I got to get you guys linked up and we'll get that all figured out. If you guys haven't yet, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, click the bell notification button, and also click the like button. That way we get a little interaction with the YouTube algorithm and see if we can get this channel to grow. My goal is 100 subs by June. So guys, if you do me that favor, that would be fantastic. If you are a fan of this podcast, please tell your friends, tell everybody. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere, please rate and review and help grow that audience, as well as thanks to Spreaker.com, we are now monetized on the audio podcast. So if you guys give that podcast a listen, get those interactions up, I can actually help fund this podcast a little bit more. Also, if you guys get a chance, head over to the Gunpowder Empire page. We did release our cover of Down in a Hole by Alice in Chains. We also were in the studio this last weekend recording a new cover that is a full band cover. Shout out to Andrew Whiteman of Anti-Sate for jumping in on drums with us, and a shout out to Van over at B Enormous for recording all of that this weekend. It was quite awesome. It's fantastic. If you guys also get a chance, go check out our music on Spotify, on Apple Music, anywhere. Get those streams up for us. We're trying to get those numbers up there as well. Put us on a playlist, listen to us on a regular basis. Do what you guys can do. Trying to get those numbers up for Gunpowder Empire as well. With that being said, Ricky and I would like to steal a moment.
How's it going?
Pretty good, man. It's been good. Trying to stay busy through this whole thing.
Yes.
Started this whole thing. Actually talked to your bassist Bern for a while back, and
good old Bernie.
Bernie is a good man. We talked hockey, we talked music, we talked being bass players and how awkward it is. How have things been for you?
No,
bass players are the worst. We're so strange. How has it been for you through this whole thing? You play bass too?
That was my first instrument. I love playing bass. I actually prefer I play in Ice 9 Kills. I'm sure you know that, but
yeah,
Joe and I have talked about swapping at a certain point, because he always complains about it. I was like, I don't know what you complain about. I love playing that thing. He was like, I would totally play guitar instead. I'm like, all right.
Well, then flip, do it. I say yes, because as a bass player, I love more people who play bass and enjoy it. I don't know why people don't. I feel like so many people think it's like a saddle or a curse, as opposed to like being a fun instrument to play.
Yeah.
It's weird. How have you been handling this whole COVID thing? It seems like you've been staying busy, still producing, been able to get work done with other projects right now, or no?
Nonstop. Yeah, no, it's been absolutely nonstop. So it's been pretty good. Full length for Wither Away, full length for Monument of a Memory. Just did a bunch of songs with Enox, this band Misery Loves Company. this new band entitled. I've been working on like some of the new Ice Nine Kills stuff with those guys, Hawk. Yeah, a lot of band from Boston called Hidden Figures, band from Jersey called uh, Ashen, um, some stuff with Carousel Kings, a band from Lancaster called Entropy. Uh, I could keep going, and a Concrete Dream from New York, This
Yeah, man.
Curse, New Jersey.
Wow. Yeah, you're busy. That you weren't kidding.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of debts over the last few years. I was like, you know what? COVID's gonna suck no matter what, so I'm going to just work my ass off, and just trying to, get my financial situation in order. Being a touring musician, you make money here and there, and then you don't for a while, and then you make money here and there, and then you don't. So, being able to be home and just keep a consistent income going, where like the harder you work, the more you make is good, because I'm just like old credit cards and stuff like that still have to get paid off. Tattoos got to get bought.
All the important things, right?
I have to get around to that.
Yeah, I need to finish mine at some point. That's been the tough part, is like
Hey,
trying to.
I'm on a podcast right now, just so you guys know.
Okay. Why are you
Because there's the sun's up here. But anyway,
But yeah, I totally understand. I got to finish up a couple tattoos and those things as well, but I got to pay off debts and get things figured out for other projects as well. My own band, this podcast, everything takes money these days, and that's kind of how the story goes, right?
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Hawk. I was a big This or the Apocalypse fan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I air drum. I'm not a drummer by any stretch, but I air drum Subverse any chance I get. It comes up on my playlist. It's probably my favorite track that This the Apocalypse did. But tell me a little bit about. Oh God, what? I'm sorry, man.
I was just gonna say Subverse is probably also up there as one of my favorites from those days as well. It's one of the songs that actually sounded like music.
Yeah, man, and those drum fills, that guitar riff, all of it kind of still sticks with me, and I love it. But I'm a huge fan of Tolerance Paradox. It's probably you're welcome. It's been one of the most consistent records I've listened to throughout the last year, like each single. And I love the remasters of Alibi and Counterops that are on that record. I know the story behind it, but I don't know if my audience does. Could you talk a little bit about the build of Tolerance Paradox?
Yeah, Hawk was kind of, me and Jack were working on Hawk for a while. I can't really go into all the details about that, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago, we made a full length that ended up not getting released. So when I started doing the Ice Nine stuff, we got the option to go on a tour before we even had a song release. So we threw Mileage together like quickly. And then we out of one of the demos we had sitting around, and then we geared that release up. We worked on a video, wrote a treatment, then worked with this guy Eric DiCarlo, and then so Hawk we were working on in between tours and stuff like that. So we're getting songs together here and there, and then we ended up at the beginning of quarantine, we decided that we're going to try to finish up the album. So we had a lot more stuff together, but just being cooped up, and at a certain point, we're like, we just got to cut it at these ones and move, because we were doing a lot of rewriting and stuff like that. So the EP was self-produced. We had Andreas Magnuson mix and master it. And we released it, and I was working with the machinist that week, and it was like, oh shit, the EP comes out tonight, fuck. And we had to we all sat on the couch and hung out for a little bit, once we hit midnight and the tracks came out, and then we were like, oh, there we go, it's out.
Yeah, man, I love the feel of the record overall. The pacing of it's really strong. The 3 singles that you guys released off of it were absolutely incredible. And then just to hear kind of the refeel of those 3 songs through the remaster of all of it, kind of.
Well, we kind of had to, because we had these newer songs, and we're like, oh shit, we're gonna have to have the same mix on everything. So we hit up Andreas, and then we were like going back and forth with him so much. And initially, he was just like, it's funny when we work with him on so much stuff, so we're always like, can you do the bass again, but do it like this? I'm like, oh, all right, fine.
Yeah, I know how that goes too in the studio. Being a recording musician myself, it's one of those things like, you eventually just have to be like, okay, you're getting real nitpicky at this point. You got to find that cutoff and get it out and enjoy it. And as long as you enjoy it after it's out there, you've done the right thing. And
yes,
and that's one of the beautiful parts about being a musician is like, it's not going to always be perfect. There will always be opportunities to tweak things, but once you find that window of getting it out, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we get to see that process here over and over and over.
Yeah, I guess as a producer and engineer, you get to see that a lot from other projects as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
So the other cool thing is I actually didn't even know you were in Ice Nine Kills until a friend of mine was like, you should check out Ice Nine Kills. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, Ricky's in Ice Nine Kills. I like his other projects. How did you get involved with Spencer and those guys?
I was recording Carousel Kings a couple years ago, and they literally just invited me to come on tour with them. They didn't want to ask me to be their merch guy, so like, hey man, we need a tour manager, when they really just needed somebody to watch the merch table. So they're open up for Ice Nine Kills, and I was like, oh, I know those guys. I toured with them years ago. And Ice Nine actually opened for This or the Apocalypse on the Norma Jean tour.
Oh shit, nice.
Yeah, so that was a blast from the past. So I was like, yeah, I'll go on that. That'd be cool. So I went on the tour, and then there was just a night where me and Spencer ended up chatting for a while, and he was like, hey, aren't you doing studio stuff now? And I was like, yeah, that had moved over to being my predominant thing I was doing. So he asked if I ever wanted to work on any of the new album that they're working on with them, because it was just a matter of time. They were like, their process is kind of crazy, and they're just like us. They do lots and lots of rewrites, and they do all type of different versions of songs and stuff like that. So they're kind of running down to the wire. And Spencer and JD were like basically working full time on it. So Spencer would go work with like Steve Sobchak, and then he'd go to JD's, and then he would literally FaceTime me in the middle of the night. Like, so he would FaceTime me at like 11, and we worked till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And so we threw a few ideas together for Silver Scream, and some of them actually got used. So that was cool. And then I didn't hear back from him for a few months, and I randomly got a phone call from him while I was in the hospital for dehydration, because I vomited too many times from food poisoning. I don't even drink. I went to a bachelor party. I got food poisoning at the diner on the way home. So I'm in urgent care, and Spencer calls. He asked if I wanted to fill in on 3 days' notice for the Motionless in White tour, in which I initially said no. And then I said yes. They asked me again, and I was like, you know what? I should really get the fuck out of my house. So I went out on that tour, and then that was pretty life changing for me. At least I ended up basically joining the band.
That's legit. I was watching through the Silver Scream parted music videos, and I was like, Ricky's not in there. And then I got to Savages, and I was like, oh, there he is. And it's interesting because like it seems like anymore bands seem to rotate members and change a lot, but yet if the core stays together, the band can stay together and kind of work together. I know that there's a lot of relationships in this industry. I mean, you having the relationship with Carousel Kings led to you being with Ice Nine Kills. I'm sure the relationship with Motionless in White led to members from Ice Nine joining them. How is that community kind of built now? Do you think it's stronger through this time frame? And when we can get back to playing shows together, do you think that the community that you guys have built will help bring sort of the crowds back and make shows stronger for the future?
It's like guessing stocks.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, there's a lot of music being made behind the scenes, which is fucking annoying because nobody's releasing because everybody wants to know what's going to happen. Um, there's a lot of questions I have. A lot of venues get shut down. Unless you're in the best possible circumstance in rock and metal, there's a lot of shows that you got to play on Tuesday, on Thursday, on Wednesday. You might have to be in Joplin, Missouri on a Thursday. You got to play at the fucking whatever people do out there. And a lot of those places are shutting down. Their budgets are going to be shot. That's the one thing that worries me because I don't think people are thinking the logistics of getting, groups of people around the country. Most people know about packed shows on Friday in, their area and stuff like that. So I feel like that's going to create a kind of that's going to create one situation that's going to be different and for bands. But then at the same time, there might be more fans out. There might be a higher demand. People are really going to want to get out. But then is there still going to be remaining fears over the pandemic that's going to keep people out? A lot of times you're not trying to sell the fans on the show. You're trying to sell their fucking parents on the idea that it's safe for their kids to go to the show. So, I'm not sure. I think as when it comes to like Hawk and Ice Nine Kills, I think that these particular bands were a bit more of like content creators than a lot of other artists. So like, we do our own videos and we act in things and, we make all types of things. So I feel like people like us should be fine. You know what I mean? But when it comes to, I record a lot of bands, and there are dudes in the band that's literally just what they do. They're just a dude in a band, and they're waiting by for something to happen. And personally, I worry about those people because you're really, really putting a lot of your eggs in one basket. If your plan is, well, I hope touring starts again, and then my income is going to come from there. So I don't know. It's tough, and it could honestly, I could see it going either way.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that, I'm very fortunate to have a day job that covers a majority of my bills and allows me the opportunity to do these other projects on the side. But at the same time, like, we are content creators as well. We're working on new things every day. We have, I have this podcast. My guitar player builds wooden structures and shelving and things for people, as well as his day job. I am working on editing videos and putting together lyric videos for our singles and stuff like that. Learning new skills and trying to find another way to increase the medium to keep our band afloat. So when the time comes for us to be able to be out playing shows again, we have a new audience or members to bring to a show. And hopefully that time is sooner rather than later. I don't know what the situation is like in Pennsylvania or in that's sort of the side of the country. Colorado venues are slowly starting to open back up again. Things are starting to get somewhat back to normal, but like capacity wise, you can't maintain a 25% capacity and hope to keep a venue open.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of venues that I'm familiar with have the businesses are just shut down. So it's, but I've talked to people who are pretty optimistic, I think, so I always wonder, but it should be interesting. I think once things start again, there's definitely going to be a lot of fans who want to get out there and see it.
Oh yeah. We have a ton of people in all of our Facebooks and Instagram groups. So we're like, when are you guys going to start playing shows again? We want to see you guys play these new singles. We haven't heard them live yet. We haven't played one of them live yet at all.
Yeah. We haven't played any of these.
Yeah. Speaking of the music videos for the Hawk singles are fucking amazing. And they're so much fun to watch. I think I've rewatched Alibi like 5 or 6 times in the last couple of weeks. That's my favorite song on the record, hands down. That chorus, that hook is absolutely
you know,
insane.
I thought I really thought that was the one. You know, I remember working on it and being like, "It's a one."
Yeah, and it's what's cool about it is like I listen to it. I'm as a vocalist, I'm very keen on lyrics. Like I listen to lyrics and I catch them a lot. And just the structure of like the flow of the melody and the build of that chorus into the second chorus with a sniper by my side part. In case of a firefight. Like I love that whole structure of it. What did the ideas for the videos come from? Like what were you guys thinking about when you were making those?
You got to understand with the videos, there's always a lot of back and forth. And generally the video starts with kind of like the videos always start with kind of just a really, really rough idea of what I want to do, where it's funny if you look over here, hang on, we're getting ready for our next video we're going to be filming this week. So
nice.
Yeah, Dan's out here and we're getting all of our stuff together. But basically we kind of like start with like a very initial thing. So initially with Alibi, I remember being like, I just want to make a funny crime video, but I saw it as being like really goofy and lighthearted, where it was just going to be like just a lot of scenes of us like counting money and like organizing guns, and Adam kind of wrote a plot for it, and then we ended up going back and forth a little bit on like what kind of tone we wanted and references, and we'll go through Adam will generally actually like find images and stuff and go through what kind of like what colors do we want in the video and everything. I think that basically, we had that process for Alibi. I think Alibi, we actually wrote, I wrote in like scene, like literally frame by frame what I wanted going on in it. And then Counter Ops is the funniest story. We hired somebody to actually animate a video, and they just absolutely did not deliver. And it was the day before the video. And John, our manager, and me were texting, and I was like, what the fuck do we do? We're releasing the song tomorrow. And he was like, dude, found footage or no, it's stock footage. He's like, just send me stock videos. I'll put a video together. So we put a video together in 3 hours while I was, like just, and the thing that really sucked about it though, was that, a lot of the really funny ones that I found that matched the lyrics, for whatever reason, would not work for he was just like, my program won't upload it. We're running into these hilarious, like, these are problems that high schoolers should be having. He was like, I don't know what's wrong with the format. So I'm like trying to like convert the format on free websites, and we're like, the fuck do we do? And it was the funniest, because we were like, there's a very fuck it attitude to that song. So we thought that would match it. And then we actually did get a chance to do a video with someone I love very much, David Brodsky, for a performance thing that he, basically was putting together some videos for a like a pitch for this venue that they could do live sets at for COVID and everything. So no, there's a funny story for every single video. Clever then, that one was a big one that we put together, and that was when we brought on Dan Horahan, who did all the Silver Screen music videos. And he pretty much put together just this absolutely bonkers treatment for it, and he started building all these props, and we got a t-shirt gun launcher that we spray painted to look like and like put PVC pipe and everything to make it look like a grenade launcher, and we just so many things.
Dude, that's what it's all about. Like it's always fun to create concepts for music videos, and then sometimes shit hits the fan. We shot Through Bloodshot Eyes, which is one of our singles, we wanted to do a performance shot inside of like a venue and have like a place to like play to no one, essentially, to kind of show the state of the world.
Yeah.
Well, every venue was down for it, but we had members of the band who were like, I'm not going to wear a mask. Like, I wear a mask while we're shooting like the shots. We were like, well, we don't want that, because that's, unless you want that to be your stage image, like we're not going to have that. So, but we had worked out deals with the venues that like anytime we were off camera, we would have masks on, but when we were on camera, we were allowed to take them off, kind of thing. And everybody had been, everyone was tested, everyone was fine, everything was good, but they were like, we just eventually had a member who was refusing to do it. They eventually left the project, so we had to scramble to get a video put together. We ended up shooting it in.
Wait. Like, did you say somebody left the project? Was it because they refused to wear a mask at a video?
No, actually, they were upset that we were not going to wear masks 100% of the time, at all times, which was fine. We understood, but he left the project because of actually a crediting issue that he actually started. It was a huge fucking mistake. It was a really stupid situation. It was really weird. Yeah. So to backtrack a little bit on that, we had actually discussed how we wanted to credit the record initially. And what it initially had been stated was that whoever brought the music, like the skeleton of the music, got the music credit. Everybody else would get a production credit. And then whoever wrote the lyrics got the lyrical credit. So it was music by my guitar player, lyrics by myself and my drummer, and then produced by the entire band and our engineer. And he got mad that he didn't get a music writing credit, even though this is what we agreed on. So it was a huge like kerfuffle. I was actually in Pennsylvania when this happened. My girlfriend's family lives on the western side in Hardstown. They run a maple syrup farm out there called Nova Maple Syrup. It's pretty legit.
You want to know what's funny?
What?
I write for so many different bands now, and I don't give a shit if they credit me for it or not.
Exactly.
As long as I am in on the publishing percentage, and I'm able to put it on my, I'm able to put it on my website, I don't care. I tell them all the time. I'll be sitting there with a guitar writing all their parts for them and stuff. I'll be like, just tell people you did it. I don't give a shit.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter. As long as, if it's a good product, be happy with the product you released and take the publishing credit. Well,
there's a misconception that anybody cares that you wrote it.
Right.
Like a misconception, because we deal with that all the time, where we'll have like bands here and stuff, and they'll like, I'll be like trying to work, and somebody will be sitting there and they'll be talking about like, old projects they've been in, being like, oh yeah, well, my old band, blah, blah, blah. And actually I wrote all the lyrics for it, and I wrote the blah, blah, blah. And you're just there. You're like, does it, it doesn't change anybody's opinion one way or another. If you're a part of a cool project, you're cool enough to be a part of it, or you weren't. No, once you start explaining the nitty gritty of being like, oh, Jerry wrote the solos, it starts losing its fun. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, I don't think people want to know that stuff sometimes. I think everybody kind of has their rock and roll, their vision of like the rock and roll dream in their head. And that's like, everybody just shows up somewhere, and they all just put something together, and it was made out of camaraderie, and it was made out of like a lot of people that were able to kind of like vibe off of one another. Hang on, I'm gonna but anyway,
that's totally it. And so to tie that all in, what ended up happening was we ended up having to shoot the video in like 3 days and get it out, because we had to like really push it out. So we hired a guy who shot a couple of our other music videos. I literally walked around downtown Denver, like the 5 blocks outside of my apartment, shot some single vocal footage in there, and then shot the rest of it in a garage that was tarped, blacked out with lights. Like, we tarped up the entire garage, put up a bunch of lights, and then played as we were playing for a crowd. And it turned out to be fucking awesome.
Good. Well, that's great.
Yeah. And so sometimes, you know, when you have to come in clutch, you do it. You just have to do it. Like you find a way to come
I
through.
think every video ever is always going to feel like a shit show, to be honest with you. Like seriously, they all feel that way.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, sometimes you feel like you're rushing it and you're like, oh, is this enough? Did I get enough footage? Is everything fine? And then you get a good product and you're like, oh shit, this turned out to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
What video what song are you shooting a video for next?
I'll never tell.
Oh, okay. Damn
it. There's only two choices, so whichever.
All right, I got a 50-50 shot. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Go all in on one or the other, and it doesn't.
Yeah. So when I was talking to Byrne, he was talking a lot about how Adam is super young but super crazy talented. How is that kind of dynamic been a part of the band? Like, how is it having a guy that you work with as a production side also be the drummer in Hawk? Like, has it been great for you, or has it been good?
It basically makes Hawk like one of our clients, essentially. We are the clients. You know, we deal with situations very frequently as you know, as if we are thinking about, like, you know, logistically, we have to find time to schedule ourselves. You know what I mean? We have to we talk logistically about a lot of things, and also when we take on bands, we're very frequently, it's like Hawk is producing the band because Jack records guitars for people, Adam does drums, Adam's mixing now, which is great. It's actually suits him very, very much. And I do a lot of just writing, and I track all, like, I'm kind of like the all-purpose guy. Like, I can, if somebody shows up here sober and ready to work, like, I can crank out an entire song in one day with them. Like, if they show up with like a chord progression, you hand me a guitar, I'll get to work and I'll start moving stuff around, writing vocals, writing melodies, you know, writing lyrics and stuff. We'll shoot ideas back and forth, you know. And generally what happens is somebody will walk out and they'll have like a whole song structure put together, and, you know, have like, you know, programming from a bunch of different sources, and bleeps and bloops, and, you know, loops from Splice. And, you know, I just try to put something together, and then generally I just pass it off to the guys. And if they want real guitars recorded on it and we didn't have time there, Jack takes care of that for me. If they want real drums recorded, Adam takes care of that for me. Adam sort of handles the mix. I usually jump back in a couple times and, you know, move stuff around, level things out. And then, yeah, it basically does feel like the band produces things as a whole. So the dynamics of it, I don't really define, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun to like, to see how bands are built and how they structure and how they use their skills to help others and, you know, work in the studio. That's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it if they need the extra help or the hand to have that available to them.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, other people definitely did this for us, so it's cool to be able to like be on that side of things where we're, you know, kind of like kind of, you know, you get to help like grow artists, sort of.
Yeah, definitely. I have been doing this like locally in the local scene for 22 years ish, and, you know, yeah, and it's been fun. I've been through a ton of different projects. My guitar player and I grew up together. We've been friends for 25 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and have worked on multiple projects together. This is probably our 5th or 6th project, but this is the first one that's really felt like our project. Like, not really you know, we've had so many like lineup changes and people come through and add their flavor to it, but like, we're the two mainstays that have always been there for each other. And this project has finally been like the fruition of all the work we've put together from the beginning, and like build it into this. This is the best project I've been a part of, and that's something I'm really proud of.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. Do you guys have any intentions of bringing any Tota stuff back to Hawk, like you and Jack bringing anything from Toda back to Hawk,
Like
maybe do some and do some reimagining.
No. No.
Okay.
No, Toda did 38 full US or European tours. Those songs got their day in court.
Okay, done and done. Easy enough. That works for me.
Yeah. Being a producer has changed quite a bit about me and the way that I love music. And that's I'm not too emotional about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's whole parts get cut and chopped and taken out, or we'll work on a song and I think it's great. 3 weeks later, I think it's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? I think as soon as you're claiming something is yours, you're telling yourself a story, and it's not a very good one. You know what I mean? So I don't have the idea of going back and playing. If there was like this massive demand for it or something like that, and it really needed to happen. Like we did have like a core fan base that really did like the music, but the unfortunate aspect of it was we toured our asses off, you know what I mean, nonstop, and it didn't do what it needed to justify us living in the past. So, you know, there's kind of like a very small demographic of people who are like, dude, you got to bring that back. And it was like, for who? You know what I mean? Or
yeah, exactly.
It's like, you know, music is about, there's kind of an honor in entertaining people and making stuff that's current and bringing new content to people. You know what I mean? And that's, as a content creator, I want to constantly just keep bringing new content out to the world and be like, hey, watch this. Forget you hate yourself for a few minutes. You know what I mean? Like, hey, check out these songs. Like, you're adding into a culture, like even the culture of producers. Certain drum samples are in, certain drum samples are out, certain chord progressions are in one genre, they're out months later. You know, you're kind of like helping shape this culture by adding into it and getting lost in this idea that like this old thing you did was, you know, that was the greatness of what you could achieve and stuff. It's a delusion, because you get like really lost in that stuff. And you know, unfortunately, we would have still been This or the Apocalypse had we not gone through so many people. And at a certain point, we're like, this isn't This or the Apocalypse anymore. And I also am sick of explaining to every single new girlfriend and her family that my band is called This or the Apocalypse. You know, if they respond with, "Oh, the Apocalypse? I've never heard of that." You're like, "Yeah, sure, no. Yeah." It's like, I want something that actually is easy to fucking write.
It's 4 letters now.
Yeah, and Hawk's a little bit more of a rock band. It's a lot less of a actual like traditional metal band, and Hawk feels and behaves a lot more like it's a rock act, I think.
Yeah, and it feels a lot more like a rock act as well. Now I'm looking at your tattoos there. Is that a Sega Genesis controller on your arm there?
Yeah, I got I just started getting tattoos a couple months ago. Then I got you have one too?
I have the Nintendo.
Oh, that's great. I don't have a mega big preference. I also love Nintendo. I just made a list of things I like, and I gave it to my best friend, one of my best friends he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Starks.
Oh, I'm on
a podcast right now. So I just gave him a list of things that I liked, and I was like, it was a long list. I was like, pick whichever you want to draw on me. It's like, all right.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have quite a few. I started getting them when I was like 18. This one is like one of my most precious ones, but I always want more. I just gotta, you know, the budget is the important part right now for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, blowing your money on that when you have other things that you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm broke because I spent money on my insecurities and vanity.
Exactly. And then you run into situations like that and you're like, oh shit, I can't buy food this week because I got another arm piece. Are you a gamer still? Do you have time to play, or do you make time to play?
I don't make time to play. I read news about video games because I will always love video games. But I play Smash Brothers every now and then. I try to keep my chops up on that. But that's about it.
Nice. See, and that's something that I've been hearing a lot more lately. I still make time when I can, but between, I'm recording. This is my 4th interview this week. I have 4 more next week. Then I have to edit them and cut them down and get all the material put together and make the intro slides, record the intro. I have to do all that on top of recording covers and stuff for the band and working on my own day job and everything else. The time is limited. So I totally understand that. And as busy as you sound from the beginning of this podcast, with the amount of bands you've been working with, I would say it's pretty hard to find time to fit in even maybe like a couple rounds of Smash.
Well, I'm behind a computer all day recording.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you get done doing that and you're just like, hey, do you want to sit behind a new screen? And it's just, I try to make recording as fun as possible for myself and, go from there.
Yeah. So you also dealt with COVID this year. You had
Yes.
it. How would you describe that experience?
I got it pretty bad. I'd say about 3 weeks. I was pretty out of it. I was pretty unhappy. There was a couple days that I was deep in on feeling very, very, very sick, and I was puking a lot. I didn't get a fever, and I didn't get a cough, which I'm fortunate for both of those. So, but it sucked. The other guy in my house, one of the guys here, Michael, got it, and he got about as sick as me. But then Jack got it months later and asymptomatic. My dad had it for like 2 weeks. So I think I had it worse than I think a lot of the people I know. But then I was dating somebody whose grandmother died from it. I've had I actually am right now working with a band whose guitar player just passed away from having COVID. He also had a pre-existing condition as well, but that doesn't. It's not like anybody was I loved how that was always brought up though as well, like those people were already sick, and it was just like, yeah, that's the problem. There's a lot of people who have conditions like.
Yeah. And that's the shitty part about all of this is like everyone's trying to excuse it away at this point and try to make it like lessen what it is and not really take accountability for it. I know that, we at least here in Colorado have taken it as seriously as we possibly can and have seen, vast improvement since January, and things are starting to move in the right direction, which has made me hopeful that, end of 2021, 2022, we can get back to some semblance of venues being allowed to have shows with larger capacities and make rock shows fun again. Because we've had some friends who've played rock shows, but everyone's sitting down and sitting at a table and they're 25 feet away, and it just doesn't feel the same. Like the energy is not there.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want it. You didn't want that.
No, I didn't. I mean, I played an acoustic show for 10 people and a camera, and that felt about as low energy as it possibly could be. But, sometimes you make your own energy, and sometimes, you feed off of a crowd. And speaking from somebody who's been fortunate enough to tour and do the fun things that come with being in a band and playing for different audiences every night, it's always fun to watch people's reactions and enjoy the feeding off the crowd. So it's kind of hard when they're sitting down in a chair 25 feet away going, woo, yeah, but not like able to really feel that energy any closer than, them coming up and giving you a high five on the stage while you're finishing up a riff or a song.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually got I got the opportunity to play a lot of acoustic things with Ice Nine Kills and at like radio stations and stuff like that, where they have like a couple winners from a thing. And And those are always interesting. They're fun.
Yeah, those are kind of cool. Like the intimate setting ones where it's like an acoustic set is different to me. I feel like completely different than like playing a full open set with the entire band and like the full electric set and everything. I don't know. Do you feel a difference between the two?
Um, I would say that. Oh yeah, for sure. I think the thing about it is what COVID's kind of showing a lot of artists is they have to learn how to just be personable, and they have to know how to like navigate the fan artist dynamic a little bit. Like, I think the thing is about playing in heavy bands so much. You're on stage and there's a group of you up there, and you can just face the drummer and rock out, and completely flood, absolutely flood the place with sound. It's not nearly as vulnerable as sitting in front of a couple people and having to hold up, like having to be charismatic and shoot the shit with them. And I actually think there's something to be said. I think a lot of musicians in the genre are getting a chance to learn from COVID and everything. You go on Instagram Live and you just grab a guitar and you're chatting with people, and you play a little bit, and then you keep going and everything, and I think that's a good thing for a lot of people to learn. Like I used to do stand up and I wasn't very good at it, but it was something that really helped me, because there's like this moment that was like kind of shocking for me, where you're so used to playing with a group of guys on stage and it being loud, that when you try to do like an open mic stand-up set, like you're literally, it is just you and those people's reactions, and you there's kind of like a getting thrown in the water moment, where you realize that the things you think are funny and your friends think are funny, and it doesn't necessarily translate to just regular people who are out to see people and have a good time. So I think that I walked into it a little bit more prepared, because I sometimes think those small shows where you get a chance to actually like get some eye contact, and maybe I love like throwing in little jabs and funny asides and things like that, and getting a chance to like, just have like a human interaction with people. I think that can actually be a lot of fun. But it's not something. It's something that a lot of people aren't used to doing. You know what I mean? Especially like some dudes who think that they're supposed to, sit down with the guitar and belt as loud as they can and close their eyes and look away from people, and like that'd be pretty uncomfortable to be in a room with that person if they're just playing for a few of you and you're like, that guy is yelling. You're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is like we've always been adaptable. The Gunpowder Empire started as an acoustic project. So we were built with the idea of, if we needed to or we couldn't find members, we would be able to play these acoustic shows. And that's exactly right. It's an opportunity to be personable and be, I sometimes miss the side of that and forget. I too took a foray into stand up, and that was the most vulnerable I've ever felt in my entire life, telling really bad jokes to
how hard did you bomb?
I got one joke and I got one laugh out of the 5 minutes that I had, and it wasn't even a real laugh. So the joke, I'll even tell you the joke. I remember the joke. So so I have this ex-girlfriend who was born and raised in a mountain town.
Okay.
She was named after a run at the mountain town that she was named after, or like born at. So her name is from a run. The sad thing is she had more pizza pies and French fries inside of her than the run ever saw in her entire life.
I like that.
And there was one drunk lady in the back who literally just went, ah! And that was it. That was the only laugh I got the entire night.
I kept doing it for a while. I kept doing stand up, and I'm actually far enough away from it that it's a little less embarrassing, because man, did I bomb. I bombed pretty bad a couple times. But what I did do was eventually I came back when I was going through I was going through like a really bad breakup, and I was living at the house alone and stuff. So I was like, man, I need to like interact with people. And I remember that there was I was like, oh, stand-ups tonight. So I just like every now and then if I think of something funny, you write it down on your phone, whatever. And I actually went out there and I sat. I remember I sat down and because back in the day I liked shock humor. I was a fucking neckbeard, throwing around some edge humor and stuff like that. And because back then you're like, oh man, nobody would say this, and you're like, oh, there's a reason. Um, but the so I remember I told a stand up set, and I just like complained about my grocery store for a while because they were always going through construction, and there was a sign that said like, please pardon our appearance. It was like, I didn't ask, and like, what happened to you? You know what I mean? You go inside and there was like a third, all natural food aisle. So I just made some ridiculous situation where I was like, I think all natural food is being kind of abusive towards giant grocery store. Like the whole vibe's off. Like everybody that works there looks like the bassist in the band that doesn't like the direction the band's going. And like, you know, salmon steaks are like on sale for $2, but almond flour is like $12.95, and like nobody's ever died in the Pacific Ocean trying to get almonds out of it or anything like that. And,
Yeah.
he just kept listing things, and for some reason people thought that was funny. And then like all these jokes that I tried to sit down and make like were like a source of embarrassment later on in life. And it's funny how that works. You kind of just figure out you're like, kind of when you do those things, I think you're just kind of figuring out how to like present your personality to the world.
Yeah, and I think that's something that everybody should at least try. I think, or try to figure out how to do, especially if you're going to be in a entertainment industry like music or acting or art in general. You're going to be front facing with audience members or people, fans in general throughout any time period, and not having the ability to really communicate or know what your personality is kind of helps. It makes it harder to have those conversations. I can say from touring personally, that really helped me identify how I wanted to present myself better as a person out to an audience.
Oh yeah, I always recommend that people give stand up a shot, because I was having this conversation with my dad. Like there's like a little bit, I come from a family of boat rockers, you know what I mean? Like everybody likes to rock the boat and, make little jabs and, political shit and everything like that. And, we were having a conversation about the masses, and, and you always want to hate them all, right? Because they're awful. And you look at the way that people behave, and, a lot of stupid stuff happens. But at the same time, there's always like, there's kind of like a slight wisdom to seeing what people are generally into and trying to figure out how to tap into that. And because generally people who, if their music isn't widely liked by people, or their jokes or videos, or whatever people make, whatever content people make, but there's always like that. We all know people who are they're like always pissed off that the world doesn't love what they do. You know what I mean? They're always like mad that the world isn't like obsessed with their stuff, and they usually are like blaming, like, oh, people are just into this and this, and they complain. They're like, oh, people. Like I remember being in metalcore band and touring, and like I always call it the metalcore businessman. There's always people be like, well, the thing about it right now is the economy and blah, blah, blah. You explain it. And they explain away like, there's less money in the economy. So, like kids are coming to shows with less money. And that's like, we're hearing merch sales and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, first of all, you're in a metalcore band. Like you walked into this deciding to make something that was like socially not, like wide net thing. And then, like number two, if you're so fucking smart, why have you not figured out how to take these people's money? Right. And the issue about it is making something popular and making something that's, while it seems easy from afar to people, like there'll never be a shortage of metal musicians who assure you like, oh, I could make 1 million of those pop songs, but for some reason have not ever done so once. Where you're like, kind of like, it's difficult to make something that connects with a lot of people, and it usually takes like really careful decisions and really really specific nuanced ways of doing things, and like doing stuff like stand up or anything like that, I always felt like kind of helped get me a little bit closer to figuring out what people actually like, because you hang out with the same people long enough and you think certain things are funny, you're going to take that assumption and apply it to everybody else,
Yeah. And that's the other thing is you made a good point when you initially said the things that I find funny and my friends find funny, most people wouldn't find funny. I can tell you right now, I have a group chat on my phone with 5 of my best friends from college.
That's
the shit we
painful, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. If it ever got leaked by the FBI agent reading our shit right now,
yeah,
we'd all be canceled tomorrow. But but that's the thing, is like, we know it's knowing your audience, knowing what you're targeting, who you're going after, what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, I may have told a lot of self-deprecating jokes that were funny to me and the people who know me, but it's not funny to people who have no idea who I am on a personal level. So why would they find that funny? Like, one of my favorite jokes is, so I'm from a broken home. I am an AB baby. I'm an accident or a blessing, depending on which parent you ask and when.
I like that. Good one.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. Like, those kind of moments, people who, like, we've been talking for almost an hour now, and there's a sense of like learning a little bit about who we are through conversation. Some of these people have never spoken to more than 5 syllables to me, and they're trying to figure out why that joke is funny to me, or why it should be funny to them. Yeah.
I'm just glad for things like Rick and Morty, and there's a lot of really like funny, good dark things out there. So I think more people at least sort of understand the things I think are funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I think dark humor is starting to kind of make its return because of how absent it's been and how aggressive like PC culture has kind of created some issues in that sense. But we'll see. But this is the point of the show, Rick, where I gotta get back to work, unfortunately, man. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This is the part of the show where I give you the opportunity to promote anything you want. Everything will be in the description below. Ricky, right now the floor is yours.
My dog's Instagram, it's Starksbucks Coffee.
Yeah, if you guys haven't,
my mom's Instagram, user Betty Armellino, BETT.
I'm gonna follow Betty right now. I'm gonna do it right now.
Do it.
If you guys aren't following Starksbucks yet, you need to get on that, because he's the best corgi ever in all of Instagram.
Well, Michael, thanks for giving me a call. It's good talking to you.
Thanks again, man. I know how busy you are. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, man.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life, 'cause it almost